These were the most consistent returns in history. Up markets, down markets, crashes, panics. The line never had a bad day. They belonged to the most trusted man on Wall Street. And they were the biggest lie ever told. This is Bernie Madoff, and the one man who proved it years too early. Rewind, the year 2000. By the end, you'll see how one line on a page fooled everyone. Banks, charities, the smartest investors alive. For decades, you'll see how a single analyst cracked it in an afternoon, and why nobody listened until $65 billion was gone. To see how a warning gets buried, you have to understand the man. And nobody doubted Bernie Madoff. He helped build the modern stock market. He pioneered electronic trading. He ran the NASDAQ, one of the biggest exchanges on earth. So when Madoff offered to manage your money, it was not a pitch. It was an honor. He made sure it felt that way. You could not just invest with him. You had to be invited. He turned people away. He acted like he was doing you the favor. The whispers spread. I heard he's closed to new money. Then we get in now, whatever it takes. And the money came from everywhere. Hollywood celebrities, star athletes, universities, hospitals, charities that did real good in the world. And what did the chosen few get? Something that looked too good and far too calm. 10% a year, almost every year. Good markets, bad markets, it made no difference. That smoothness is why the smart money trusted him. Banks fed him billions. Much of it came through middlemen called feeder funds who funneled thousands of people's savings into one man. By the 2000s, on paper, Bernie Madoff ran one of the most successful investment shops in the world. Here's the first rule. Exclusivity is not proof you found something real. It's the oldest bait there is. But the one thing everyone admired, that flawless, unbroken line, was the exact thing that proved he was lying. Here's what nobody wanted to see. But to understand why nobody believed the warnings, you have to understand the other Bernie Madoff. Because one half of his business was completely real. For decades, Madoff ran one of the largest, most respected trading firms on Wall Street. It handled a huge share of the stock market's daily orders. He had helped build the modern electronic market, and he had served as a trusted voice on how markets should work. He was not a fringe operator. He was the establishment. So when a quiet analyst said this man was a fraud, it sounded absurd. And Madoff protected the lie with secrecy. He would not let his investors check their accounts online. He mailed them paper statements instead. He called his strategy proprietary, a secret too valuable to explain. And if you push too hard for answers, he simply closed your account. Doubt him, and you lost your golden ticket. So almost nobody did. Madoff claimed he used a complex trading strategy. The truth was simpler. He was not investing the money at all, not $1 of it. What he ran is called a Ponzi scheme. Picture it as one image, a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You tell everyone it's a magic bucket that fills itself. People line up to pour money in. An early investor wants some back with the gains you promised. You hand them money from everyone who poured in today. They leave happy. They tell their friends. They have no idea their profit is just someone else's deposit. There's no magic. There's a hole in the bottom and a story on top. To sell the story, Madoff mailed out official-looking statements. They showed trades that never happened. People held paper that told them they were rich. And here's the detail that should have ended it years earlier. This multi-billion-dollar empire was run from a single floor of a Manhattan office tower. Fewer than 24 people. No computers connected to the real markets. Just old dot matrix printers, quietly churning out fake account statements to mail across the world. And the auditor who blessed it all? A tiny firm of 3 people. One partner, working out of a small office upstate. One secretary, one accountant. A titan of Wall Street, audited by 3 people in a strip mall. Nobody asked why. Now the tell. Remember the line that never had a bad day? A real investor falls when a market falls. To draw a straight line in a world that zigzags, you cannot be investing in that world at all. Second rule. A line that never falls is not winning the game, is not playing the game. And there was a way to test the lie for anyone willing. Madoff claimed he used a strategy called a split strike conversion. In plain terms, he said he bought a basket of big-name stocks, then used options to lock in the gains and limit the losses. It sounds clever, It is also real and perfectly legal. There was just one problem. To run that strategy at Madoff's enormous size, you would need to trade more options than existed in the entire market. The trades he described were physically impossible. When one of the most sophisticated quantitative firms on Wall Street tried to reproduce his returns, they came back with the same answer Markopolos found. It cannot be done. Madoff was claiming to earn billions in a market that did not have room for his trades. The numbers did not just look too good. They were mathematically impossible. In the year 2000, one analyst looked at that straight line and felt his stomach drop. His name was Harry Markopolos. He tried to reproduce Madoff's returns. He could not. He later said it took him 4 hours to know it was a fraud. Not because he was not smart enough, but because the math would not close. So he warned regulators. In 2000, again in 2001, and in 2005, he handed the Securities and Exchange Commission a 17-page memo. He gave it a title that left no room for doubt. The world's largest hedge fund is a fraud. They looked into it and let Madoff go. Why? Because the lie was paying everyone. The feeder funds earned fees. The investors earned returns. Nobody at the table wanted the answer. And understand what that silence cost the man who tried. Markopolos became convinced that if Madoff discovered him, he could be killed. He feared Madoff had ties to organized crime. He feared the reach of Madoff's own brother inside the regulators. So for years, he carried a pistol. He checked underneath his car before he started it. He changed the route he drove home. He held the truth in writing, and he lived like a hunted man, while the man he was hunting kept collecting billions. Third rule, the darkest. Fraud does not end when someone discovers it. It ends when believing it stops paying. Markopolos had handed them the whole thing in writing. That's when it should have stopped. It did not for 3 more years. And it was not only Markopolos who could have stopped it. All along the chain, professionals whose entire job was to check looked straight at the warning signs and looked away. Giant feeder funds shoveled billions into Madoff and asked almost nothing in return. One of them, Fairfield Greenwich, poured in more than $7 billion. When they once pressed Madoff for real answers about his trades, he threatened to cut them off. They backed down. The fees were too rich to risk the relationship. And then there was the government. The Securities and Exchange Commission did not investigate Madoff once. It investigated him 5 separate times over 16 years. 5 times, examiners caught him in contradictions and inconsistencies. 5 times, they accepted his answers and closed the file. The largest fraud in history was hiding in plain sight, and the people paid to find it kept deciding not to look. A bucket with a hole only works while the water keeps coming. The moment more people want out than are pouring in, it dies in days. Then came 2008. The crisis hit. Everyone needed cash. Madoff's investors started asking for their money back, about $7 billion of it. But there were no investments to sell, no secret trades, only the bucket, and far too little left in it. In early December 2008, Madoff told his own sons the truth. The business was one big lie. They turned him in. On December 11th, federal agents arrested him. On paper, the statements claimed $64.8 billion. Decades of fake gains, printed and mailed. The real cash that people handed over and lost was roughly $17.5 billion. Either way, the largest Ponzi scheme ever uncovered. And those were not just numbers. Thousands of people were wiped out. Retirees who had handed over everything were left with nothing. Charities that had trusted him for decades closed their doors overnight. Remember the line that never had a bad day? This was the bad day. The line that had climbed, smooth as glass, for decades, reached the morning it had nothing left underneath it. It had never been climbing. It had only ever been a story. And the story had run out of new believers. In 2009, Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years. And Harry Markopolos was finally called before Congress. Not as the man who stopped it, but as the man who proved years early that it could have been. The damage did not stop at the money. A court-appointed trustee spent years clawing it back from those who had profited and recovered more than $14 billion, one of the largest recoveries in the history of fraud. But some things could not be clawed back. Madoff's own family came apart. His older son took his own life 2 years to the day after the arrest. His younger son died of cancer a few years later. Bernie Madoff died in prison in 2021. Last rule: a Ponzi never ends when it's caught. It ends when the new money stops arriving. When the dust finally settled, the true scale came into view. The victims were not just banks and billionaires. More than 40,000 people in over 120 countries have been swept up in it. Most were ordinary: teachers, retirees, small charities, and foundations. People who had handed over their life savings, often a few $100,000 each, which to them was everything they had. But there is one piece of mercy in this story. Because a court-appointed trustee spent more than a decade clawing money back from those who had pulled their profits out early, the recovery became one of the most complete in the history of fraud. In the end, victims got back the vast majority of the cash they had actually lost. More than 90 cents on every dollar. For some, it came too late. But against every expectation, it came. Madoff was no genius. The scheme was the oldest trick there is. It survived because it was profitable to believe. And because the one thing that should have screamed fraud, that perfect line, was the thing everyone chose to admire. Here's what should keep you up. Madoff faked his statements by hand. A backroom. Trades typed out that never happened. Today, that backroom is a piece of software. An AI can generate flawless, personalized, fake returns at a scale Madoff could only dream of and bury the next honest analyst warning under 1,000 automated ones. Every age believes its frauds will be too clever to fall for. Every age is wrong. The tools change. The ledger, the printing press, the algorithm. The motive never does. Tonight, somewhere a line is climbing that should not be climbing. And somewhere, quietly, someone has already done the math. Here is what the smartest money on earth chose to forget. A line that never has a bad day is not a miracle. It is a receipt for a lie still being written. Bernie Madoff's line never had a bad day, right up until the morning it had nothing left. The only question that has ever mattered is whether we listen to the prophet before we count the profit. If you want a next story of how the money really moves, subscribe. Next time, a company worth $60 billion that sold almost nothing at all.